Welcome to Iron Sights. This podcast candidly seeks to create opportunities and deliver impact by sharing the experiences and wisdom of successful entrepreneurs and thought leaders who unapologetically aim to win in health, fitness, business, and life. I'm your host, Scott Howell. Welcome to Old School Meets New School, tradition meets innovation, and imperfection meets excellence. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome back to the Iron Sights podcast. I have a very interesting and dynamic guest today. His name is Traver Boehm, and he's the founder of the Uncivilized movement. He has done a lot of things, and we'll talk about some of those things, but he's the author of Today I Rise and Man UNcivilized. He's been a 2-time TED speaker, and he's a men's coach and a podcaster. So he's got a lot of stuff going on. Traver, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, it's I wear a lot of hats, despite not having hair or wearing one at the moment. Yeah,
I think
a lot of hats.
you've worn a ton of hats previous to this. I mean, you have an interesting background. I think that, again, going back to the dynamics piece, you've done everything from, mixed martial arts. You've been a bodyguard at some point or there. You've also have a master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine and meditation. So basically you went from beating people up to understanding how to fix them internally. But I think more relevant to maybe this conversation, I mean, it's all relevant, but I think kind of as we dig in deeper, that really what you're doing now is you're counseling men, women, and couples on how to sort of better understand men's health and relationship difficulties that are sort of, number one, inevitable.
Yeah.
And number two, look, everybody goes through this stuff. So maybe, just in terms of some of the background there, you've also done a couple other things, again, relevant to this, and that is you've been a gym owner, much like me. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I was one of the early adopters or got into CrossFit early. After my first professional MMA fight, I realized doing curls and just about curls only as my conditioning was not that good. And so I joined CrossFit LA, which at the time was Petronic Fitness that Andy Petronic ran. And I was in grad school at the time, studying Chinese medicine, seeing acupuncture clients and fighting, and very quickly realized or had this idea that people needed movement practice and nutrition and motivation and community far more than they needed like a needle in the elbow. And that was a hard realization after 4 years of school. So I left school and within a month opened up CrossFit Pacific Coast in Santa Barbara with a good buddy of mine, Eric Malzone, he was taking CrossFit at Lane Fitness up by you in San Fran.
Okay.
With Chris Lane. And it was this, wild time back then. We opened in 2009. And so this was before the games, before people really knew what we said. Like for the first year and a half of the business, we were explaining to everybody what the hell CrossFit was.
These are the roots, roots we're talking about.
For the next 3 years, we were trying to get people to realize they're not going to make the games.
Right.
It was a very quick transition, but I loved running a gym, Scott. I loved it. Because our philosophy was, I really don't give a shit what you look like naked, even though that's our slogan. I really don't give a shit what your back squat is if you leave here and you don't do anything with it. And it was a little bit of a different mentality. Like I taught meditation out of a CrossFit gym.
Right.
I had everybody who came through that facility had to get one-on-one life coaching with me or Eric or someone else, because we realized that the fitness element was just the tip of the iceberg. And most people needed a more holistic approach to their lives. So it was a great experience of my life. And then I also think, and this is another hard thing to say, a year or so before I left, I outgrew it. And I really wanted to help people only on the deepest level I could find, which wasn't fitness. It was like, what's going on inside of you? What's going on? And for guys listening to this, they may check out hearing this word, but like, what's in your heart that's off?
Right.
What about your soul is not being expressed? How are you as a human not fully expressing yourself in the world, because all of those ways we can tie them back to something that's going to manifest physically or health wise. You know why you have like heart issues? Because you eat like shit. You know why you eat like shit? Because you don't think you're worth good nutrition. You know why you're not worth good nutrition? Because growing up, 5 people told you were a piece of shit. Oh, wow. So I can throw every Rob Wolf book, paleo,
Right.
keto, whatever I want at you. But if you don't think that you're actually worth it, then it's all going to be irrelevant. So I then transitioned out of owning a gym. I sold it to my partner. I went on a long journey and figured some shit out about myself. I got divorced. I had the classic like 40-year-old life crisis. And then I wrote the book, Today I Rise, which was essentially a guidebook for someone who, like me, woke up one day and found out they were getting divorced. And
Right.
what was interesting about this, Scott, was men started reaching out to me after that book got published. And it was like, it was daily, man. Like, hey, man, I'm going through a divorce. I'm all fucked up. I just read your book. You don't seem like you're all that fucked up. What do I do? I was like, well, 1, read it again and actually do the exercises. 2, let's take a look at your life. And I did this weird experiment.
Yeah, let's talk about this experiment, man, because this is what you're about to talk about. And you said you kind of went on this journey and this experiment with yourself. Like, is this before the book or after the book?
This is before the book.
Okay, gotcha.
I did what was called, so imagine this, guys listening. I'll give you more context. I was married, my ex-wife was pregnant, and I was running a gym. This is like cruise control, right? Like the gym was crushing it. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to kick back and wait for the next 50 years. My ex-wife miscarries, decides we need to get divorced, and my business partnership comes apart, all in a relatively short period of time. So we went from cruise control, or I did, to hitting a brick wall. So suddenly I'm not having a kid, I'm not married, and this 40, 50, 60 hour a week job has now been eliminated. So what the fuck do I do with myself?
Right.
I got a lot of energy. Now I have nothing but free time. I also have an income for the next 2 years because of the sale of the gym. So it's a long story, which I won't get into, but I made the decision to do a social experiment and live all of 2016 as if it were my last year alive. Now, when you hear that, a lot of people start going bucket list. Like, okay, I'll have a threesome. I'll see the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
I'll jump out of an airplane.
Yep.
I'd done all that stuff before. So I was like, what would I do if I actually was going to die? How would I leave a mark on society? What would I want to contribute? What would I want to do? And knock on wood, hopefully I'm not going to actually die. So what do I need to learn? How do I need to change? How do I need to heal and transform so that the next 40 years of my life are lived in a different frame than the first 40? Because I'm the central point of a divorce, a business partnership coming apart, some challenges with, as a CrossFitter, I drank a lot, smoked a lot of dope, looked at a lot of porn, exercised 3 times a day, had multiple businesses. There was some shit inside of me that needed to get sorted out too. So I did this wild year, like full on, like both feet dive in. And it fucked me up in all the best ways. It fucked me open. Right, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, how so, man? Give me some examples. Like, what were some of those pivotal points?
Well, the first thing very first thing I did is volunteered in hospice. So imagine, like a week ago, I'm telling people, like, all right, you ready? Pick the fucking weight up. Right. A week later, I'm like holding someone's hand as they die.
Yeah, it's vibrance to death.
It is a radical transformation, or radical transition, let's call it. And every skill that I had, which was picking up heavy shit, choking people, right, writing, was suddenly irrelevant. I had to like lean into a whole different skill set of like, these guys don't care how strong I am. They don't care how well I write. They don't care how well I defend myself. They actually give a shit if I'm present. Am I going to check out because they're puking and I can't handle that? Am I going to check out because they just shit themselves in the bed and I can't handle that? Or am I going to be like, you know what? I don't care what just happened. I'm not leaving this room emotionally energetically or physically. I got you. So like just that experience was a massive, like it was a crucible, for lack of a better term.
I can't imagine.
It's something, first of all, if once COVID's clear, I hope everybody does this, because it radically shifted my view of death. It radically shifted my view of illness. It radically shifted my view of waiting to do things until this magical day when suddenly the stars align and you can go, take a shot at your dream. It radically shifted what I thought was fair and unfair, but mostly it just taught me, you are so much more valuable than your accomplishments. And I'd racked up a bunch of accomplishments to 40, right? I'd lived an accomplished life, but yet there was this deep aching emptiness that I now had to address that required a whole new set of skills, man.
Right.
So it's like, that's just one piece of it. But if we come back and fast forward to the book, now I'm talking to men because I am done with this year. I still have an income for another year. I don't know what to do with myself other than write another book, and I don't want to do that. I'm kind of lying around. And so I just made a point that if anybody emailed me, DM'd me, messaged me about the book, I'd call them. I'm like, hey, here's my phone. Let's get on the phone. And so I talked to hundreds of men about their challenges, about their divorces, about their addictions, about their fears, about their insecurities, about like real shit. Because I still had that frame of like I'm not going to judge you. I just spent a year cleaning up puke and shit and watching people die. Like, you telling me that you jerk off when your wife goes to bed isn't really going to affect me. So let's be honest. And I got this incredible look, like a peek behind the curtain of the male animal, and was like, holy shit, we are in pain. We are suffering. We are not doing this thing well. We are not taking care of ourselves. We don't have an understanding of what it means to be a man. We don't have societal like permission to feel emotion, to express emotion. We're riddled in shame and guilt and all this. We're over sexualized. We're under intimacized, if that's a word. Like, we're fucked up.
Yeah, it's an interesting, and it's a tough spot to be, because we don't know what to do with it. And the energy often gets misdirected in a lot of different ways and behaviors and situations that we shouldn't be involved in, that can ultimately lead down a path of destruction. As you're hearing these stories and you're recognizing a little bit of yourself maybe in each of these stories and in the journey that you've come through to get to where you are at this particular point, and you're helping men, are you hearing things from the other side? Because you're telling men, look, it's okay to be fucked up, man. It's okay. You're taking the step in the right direction. Are you hearing things from the female side at this point? Like, how dare you tell them it's okay to, do this or feel this or do that? Why are you not focusing on the women's side? What about the quote unquote air quotes victim in this particular relationship? What's going on there?
For sure. It was a duality, Scott. So this was right around when Me Too exploded. So every morning I'd wake up and look in the newspaper, and it was like, Matt Lauer had a button under his desk to lock interns in his office, or Harvey Weinstein, or some other, or even just like Bob from accounting is a fucking rapist, or it's just over and over. Men are bad. Masculinity is toxic. The patriarchy, all of this bullshit. And what I didn't hear at the end of that was, and here's what we need to do
to fix it.
To fix this. It was nothing. So to answer your specific question, I got two very distinct reactions from women. One, thank God. Thank you. Someone needs to address this from the root, not just the branches and the shit that we see. Someone needs to actually, I just got chills, be there for men. It was like, I have a son. I have a brother.
Right.
My husband's a mess. My ex-husband's a mess, but he's the father to my children. The men in my life don't know where to go. Or we are the recipients of unskilled expression of male pain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're really actually are the victims of it. That was side one. Side two. Yeah. There was like, go fuck yourself. How dare you? Yeah. You are the patient. I got called.
Right. You're the problem.
Yeah. I am the problem. Right. Why aren't you helping women? And I'd be honest, like, here's what I did when I got divorced. I Googled, how do I survive my divorce?
Yeah,
because it came out of nowhere. I didn't know. And here's what I got. I joined the Women's Divorce Network. I joined like 3 different women's support groups because I couldn't find them for men. I just couldn't find them. Maybe they were there, but I couldn't find them. So I would tell women, I get it, or women on that side. One, you have the resources. We don't. You have the permission. We don't. Number 2, how would you feel if I could solve this in a way that you don't want me to? Would you still be okay with the solution? And I got a mixed reaction to that too. But I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Wow. This is what I'm going to do. This is what it's. And by the way, it's working. So leave me alone and let me do my shit. Like, right. I'm not concerned about you anymore. And now here we are 3-4 years later. And now it's 90% awesome. Thank you. We need this. How do I get my son involved? How do I get my brother involved? How do I get so-and-so involved? And very rarely I get the, you're perpetuating male, whatever supremacy, and I'm like, okay, thank you. Have a great day.
Let's talk about how they get there. So I think, here's something that you talk about and I've read, that you've written. In a sense, it's like whether the man or society in general seems like, or you're a man or sort of men in general, it seems men have been given sort of basically 2 choices, right? And again, this is something you talk about. You can sort of be the macho, impenetrable, often kind of stoic guy and defines his masculinity by how much, like you said earlier, how much you can squat, how much money you make, how many beers you can pound in a sitting, your sexuality and how many chicks you banged in your life, or you can take the other route because of what you've just described there in that kind of duality or dichotomy. And that's the or you can sort of be the nice, sensitive guy who thinks masculinity is somehow offensive and unattractive. Sure. And you want to try to be that nice guy. And ironically, you kind of find being offended to be virtuous because somehow people are okay with that. And then it's such a confusing landscape. Why is it like that, man? How do we get there?
Well, it's a big question. And I'm not a sociologist or an anthropologist, but here's my view is that we came out of what? We came out of, I was raised by a man who was raised by men who were in World War II. Mm-hmm. I was raised by a man whose brother went to Vietnam, where you had a choice back then. You either go to Vietnam or you go to fucking jail. Mm-hmm. That's it. Or you go to Canada. But we did not give a shit about men. And we needed men to not feel. We needed men to be the stoic 1950s Marlboro man. Why? We had a country to build. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if my grandfather and his crew pulling up in Normandy were like, hey, let's check in with our feelings. Let's see if any of us want to be here. We don't. John's sad. Stuart's upset. Right. We're going to turn the boat around and we're going to go.
Yeah, we couldn't. Yeah, not then and not when they got back. Because if they were already having challenged them when they got back with all the shit that they were faced with, all the things and the horrific things they had done and seen and been involved with, that's certainly not okay to talk about. Who wants to hear about that?
There's no space in society for that. Right. Then we have Vietnam, which is the same idea. We couldn't have guys be like, hey, you're drafted. You either get to go or you can tell us that your feelings are hurt and you don't want to go. We didn't do that. We're like, you either fucking go or you go to jail.
Right. And it's almost like worse than that because they were going.
They weren't even volunteers.
Yeah. And the World War II, they came back and they were heroes. When they went to Vietnam, they came back, they were despised.
They were despised. Can you imagine living in that world for years and then coming back and getting shit on? So anyway, culturally, we had that figure, the 1950s Marlboro man. We had a workforce that had to leave the house. We had young boys who, so we have that. Now let's actually take a moment and say, now they were most likely in relationship with women.
Sure.
How amazing is that relationship? If you have a guy that's just back from war, you have a culture that can't express itself. You have all the law, feminism hasn't come through yet. So it's actually legal to harass, beat your wife, your employee. Right. It's a shitty place to be culturally. So then we have feminism. Beautiful. We need it. We need laws that are about equality, but we have a pendulum that swings too far.
Right.
We have mothers raising children on their own. We have an entire generation. Here's a way to say it. This upsets people, but I don't care. We have an entire generation of men, or a generation of men who were raised by women who were afraid of men or who hated men. many of whom for a very good reason.
Yep. They had lots of reasons, and you just described many of them. Mm-hmm.
But that little boy growing up, he doesn't know.
He didn't see that. Yeah.
He didn't see that. So he actually looks at dad himself and he's like, I'm not going to be dad. Dad's an asshole. Dad drinks too much. Dad's shut down. Dad screams and punch holes in the wall. Dad punches mom. Or dad's not around. So mom is like, you're never going to be like dad. Who are our primary school teachers? They're women. So we have this generation that was raised by women. And God bless them for raising women.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not their job. So we put women in the wrong job. Now we have this generation of men who think that being a man, because they've only seen the shadow side of it, Scott. They've only seen, in quotes, toxic masculinity. They've only seen the shut down version. So they don't want to be a guy either because they haven't seen an integrated man. They haven't seen someone who has both the primal and the divine. They haven't seen a man who's in touch with his emotional intelligence. Or they've had their emotional intelligence celebrated. Good for you for feeling, Johnny. Good for you for crying. But they then haven't had the masculine part celebrated. Hey, I get it. I appreciate your feelings. Good for you for sharing them. Now get back in the fucking game.
Right.
So we've had this binary situation. You're either a 1950s Marlboro, you're sensitive new age guy. This is where I came in. I was like, wait a minute. What if we took a little bit of both and we mixed them together?
Yeah. So is there another option? And if so,
option 3.
What is the option?
And that was my branding of it, or my calling of it, was the uncivilized man. Because I looked at culture and said, I don't want to be the dude on the left and I don't want to be the dude on the right. But these are the only 2 options the civilized world is giving me. And really we're being pushed. It was pushed towards the sensitive new age. So I was like, wait a minute. We need guys who are willing to step up. We need guys who are willing to lead. We need, what do you know? When California's on fire, we need guys who are, quote, toxic, who will take risks, who will put their bodies in jeopardy, who will go fuck some shit up. So let's take the best of that world. But we got to agree, men, we need to be in touch with our emotions. We have to be able to alchemize our pain. We have to be able to verbalize our pain. We have to be able to look at someone and say, I actually know how I feel. Because until we do that, we will take solace in the bottle. We will take solace in porn, in drugs, in kicking the shit out of people, in shooting up schools, in molesting our children, in doing all kinds of unconscionable shit, which we do because we've stuffed our emotions. And we know anything you suppress comes out sideways. So my view was, let's take the old school masculinity and let's take the best of it. Mm-hmm. Fuck it. I'm a Bruce Lee student, right? Like, take what works, get rid of what doesn't. Oh, wow. This shit works, right? I want to be stoic. I know there are times I need to put my head down and work. Mm-hmm. I know in my relationship, I need to be the leader. And let's take the best of the other side and go, you know what? It's actually really helpful if I can express my feelings. It's actually really helpful if I can get in a room full of people and drop down deeper than sports, business, and pussy, because I have emotions. And wow, after I've let them come out, I don't feel like I need to go get drunk. I don't feel like I need to go beat the shit out of somebody. I don't feel like I need to flush my life down the toilet because I have no other way of expressing myself. That makes sense. I feel like I just rambled.
No, you did a really good job of sort of setting up the next part here, because, okay, so you're taking these best parts and you've described some of the bad parts there, but this is what I've been exposed to. This is my normal. This is what I'm used to, what I've been indoctrinated into, right? Even in some sense, whether that's through
for sure.
the church, the education, the family, whatever the case is. And now I understand what you're saying, Trevor. It's making sense to me, but it's a fucking scary thing to think about having to navigate through right now, because it hasn't really been defined. Mm-hmm. You just sort of kind of went through that, like, in terms of defining the uncivilized nature of who we are as men, right? And, mm-hmm. and who we can be. But there really is no roadmap, or hasn't been a roadmap to how to actually do all of that. So there's an application piece. Mm-hmm. So no, it makes perfect sense. I think, this resonates huge with me, but I think it resonates huge with a lot of men out there, and even women. Obviously, we're not talking to just the one aspect, but now I think the question is like, okay, what's next, man? Like, I get where you're coming from. That sounds great. I want that for me. Mm-hmm. I want that for my relationship. I want that for my kids and my career and my mental and physical health. How the hell do I do this?
Big question. So I wrote my second book about this, Man UNcivilized, which is basically a guidebook for this process. And I broke it down into 4 sections: fight, fuck, feed, feel. Essentially, the first 2 are the primal. And so my world is primal and divine. Primal is you got to know how to fight. And I'm not just talking about throwing a punch. I mean, you got to fight for your own life. You got to fight for what you believe in. You got to fight to bring your vision of reality into the physical world. We're guys. You got to know how to fuck well. You got to have some understanding of your sexuality beyond friction. You got to look at your sexual shame. You got to own your desires, right? There's an aspect of masculinity that's penetrative. This is, we can go in the bedroom or out of it, right? So you have to have a grasp and an ownership of who you are sexually as a man. If you don't, your life's going to be in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, we see it all the time.
You see it all the time.
Just turn on the news.
That's the primal part that men need to learn. Their skill. Scott, their skill. You're a gym owner, right? I was a gym owner. When I first walked into a gym, I did not know how to deadlift. I'm a jujitsu guy. The first day on the mat, I did not know how to do jujitsu. There was skill, right? It wasn't just, I didn't just go there and on day one, they're like, well, think about being stronger. It's like, no, put your damn back in the right position, lock your lats in, take a breath and go. There's skill
reps
to this.
Yeah, and that takes reps. It just doesn't happen.
Drilling,
right?
There's et cetera. So those were the first 2. Feed. You got to know how to nourish yourself. You have to understand energetics. You have to understand that if you're depleted, then you will take from the society. You will take from your partner. When you are full, you will have energy, life force, money, time to give. So you have to learn how to feed yourself. Yeah. And part of it was like, you got to know how to eat.
Yeah.
I know we're a gym community, but most humans, especially in America, we don't know how to fucking eat.
Oh, that's clear.
Killing ourselves with food.
We're learning that in spades right now.
Right. Yeah. So how do you feed your soul? And I know we can get a little bit ethereal, a little bit woo-woo here, but how do you feed who you are as a person? Why are you here? What the fuck did you come here to do? That's the feed part. And last was feel. And this is the one where guys are like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't know we were going to get into feelings. Right. Yeah, you got to fucking feel. You have to be able to put your hand on your heart and go, okay, I am frustrated, sad, upset, angry, joyous, exuberant. When I asked guys on those calls, how do you feel? 90% of the time, the answer was, holy shit, man, no one's ever asked me that.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Actually don't know. Right. And I had so much compassion for them. I say, I get it. You don't know how you feel. You've never been taught how to access an entire other world. Right. So I broke it down as this is what an uncivilized man in my terminology has equal access to his head, where we figure shit out, where I do my taxes, right, where I do my P&Ls, his heart, where he feels his partner, he feels himself, he feels the world around him, he feels his children. He has a feeling experience. We're feeling beings. And then his balls, where he's like, you know why I'm here? I'm here to fuck some shit up.
Right.
I'm here to build something. I'm here to take care of people. I'm here to protect. I'm here to provide. When a guy knows when to use which tool, his life changes radically. Right? I'm not walking in and being like, okay, it's time to deadlift. Let me check in with my heart.
Right.
And I'm not like, okay, it's time to break down my P&L. Let me get in touch with my balls. Right. And when it's time to fuck shit up in the world, I don't think, I do. So it's this is the permission slip that the book gives men and the guide to do it. And here's the last piece I'll tell you, because I don't want it to be missed. This is a huge piece of this puzzle. Somewhere along the line, Scott, we figured out that you and I are competitors. We're not brothers. We're not teammates. We're not the same. We don't have anything in common. You are the competition. And that was a big part of our downfall. So men actually have to learn this. We learn from modeling. I see you pick up a heavy weight. I pick up a heavy weight.
Yep.
I see you do a pull up, and you engage your scap first. I engage my scap first. I see you have a skillful conversation with your partner. I have a skillful conversation with my partner. And we have to learn from men. This is a weird thing about us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. What I was going to jump in there with is you mentioned something about I am afraid, I am angry, I am whatever. And there's an association there with that's who you are. There's an identity that's picked up with that rather than looking at it differently. And again, this is what comes with the skills and the talking about it. And it's not just talking about it, but it's talking about it in a meaningful way, which I think we're going to address here in a little bit, but rather I am not angry. That is not who I am as a person. I am experiencing anger, right? I am experiencing fear, and knowing that it doesn't have to be like that all the time, but we need to peel back the layers of the onions here and figure out what the hell is going on so that we can embrace it, understand it, and then move forward. The question, and I think going back to what you're saying is like, okay, this is where guys kind of tune out, is that's the feelings part. And it takes a tremendous amount of self-awareness and work to do that. What do you find are the major keys to understanding and addressing these things for men today?
I think first of all, most men live in a world. So let's look at television. Without feeling, your life is black and white. And I'm not saying like it's binary. I mean, like you experience, like you remember black and white TV, sure, or people listening to this who are younger. There's this thing. Imagine your TV is black and white. Yeah. And you had to get up and turn the channel physically. It was a whole different deal in the 80s. So when you add the ability to feel emotion, it turns into color. When you access deep emotion, it becomes HD. And this is your whole life, everything, your sex life, your business life, your gym life, it all becomes HD color. So you want this. So now here's the thing to get over. And for guys listening to this, just hang with me. If you're all athletes, at some point you've been in the middle of a workout and you've been huffing and puffing and you got tunnel vision, your heart's racing, but I doubt that you think this is now forever. Like 2 days from now, when I'm home on the couch, I'm going to be experiencing this exact same thing. Yet, so many men, when they start to feel a negative emotion, they're like, this is it. I'm now a sad person. Right. I will be sad for eternity. This is not going to have some natural cycle that an emotion needs to come up. It needs to come out, and then it's gone. It's done. Mm-hmm. Just like fatigue. It has its place. And then what do you know? So I think first is just to address, this is not our world, Scott, the internal world. It's not the masculine world. The masculine world is the external 3D
manifestation.
Yep. Manifests is like, it's why we build roads and waterways and electricity, and yet we can't figure out how the fuck we feel.
Right.
But the new evolution requires us to feel. So first we just have to tell guys, dip your toe in the water. Admit that you're sad. Be sad. It's all right. I'm sad. I get sad. I get grief. I cry. I laugh. It's like, none of them's killed me. I thought in the beginning, like, this also may kill me. It's like, I'm crying. What if this fucking kills me?
Right.
And it was weird. It didn't, even though it felt like it might in the moment. So really, again, if we go back to modeling, one of the beauties of a men's group, which I don't give a shit if you join any of mine or somebody else's, you're going to say, wow, that dude looks like me, smells like me, has shoulders that are bigger than mine. He's tough as shit. But yet he just cried. And you know what's weird? Once I get over my own societal issues about that, I actually feel closer to him. I actually trust him. And I think, and I'm going to feel this thing welling up inside of me too, because so many men have suppressed emotion.
That's
this thing that has a desire to come up and out. Mm-hmm. Holy fuck. And then you talk to the guy afterwards. You're like, hey, how do you feel now? He's like, I feel so much better. I needed to clear that. I needed to get that out. Just like if you haven't worked out for a couple of days, I needed that workout. I needed that release, right? Same thing with emotion. You will feel better after. And so
Reps.
we've done a shitty job of selling emotion to men.
Right. And so it's not just that though. It's also, it's okay to have the emotion, and they stop short of really being able to connect with it. So, okay, you're right. I'm angry and I can calm down. Now it's gone, right? I've had this emotion and now I've gotten past it maybe in a better way with better behavior or better reaction than I have in the past. But the reality of it is they haven't made a meaningful connection with that experience of having that emotion, the reasons why they've had that emotion, and how to deal with that more productively in the future. And I think that's where you were just going with that.
Yeah, we just don't have the reps. We're so out of touch with it. We get celebrated for being thinkers. We get celebrated for being physical. We get shamed, abused, guilted, punched in the arm, called a pussy for having emotion. Most of us did growing up, especially anybody over 30. So it's like we're asking men to do things that are hard. And I get that. There's a leap of faith required for you to express emotion. It needs to be done in a safe container.
Right.
Right. Like I wouldn't go into a business meeting and be like, hey, fellas, 1 sec, and then cry it out for 60 seconds. Like, okay, thanks, guys. Really needed that. Cool. Like, now do you want to buy my company?
Right.
Not the right set and setting. But in a men's group or in somewhere where there is with a therapist, with a loved one, with someone where you can say, hey, do you have the space to hold this for me? I'm going through some shit.
Right. The therapy thing has become, kind of taboo. It's a dirty word. If you go to therapy, you're weak. And we've been saying that for so long. And interestingly, I know so many people that need and are looking for that kind of help right now. And therapists are stacked. They're booked. They have no room in their schedule, which I think is a really, it gives you a acute visibility to what's sort of going on in the world. And I wondered if you could relate, like, where you think we are sort of in time and space right now, regarding this masculinity and in globally and in the world of where we're at right now. Have you sort of contemplated that? You have thoughts? For sure.
On that? I love the sort of existential thought of it. It's September 1st, right? 2021. We are still in the middle of COVID. We came out of Me Too, and then we had the little bit of downtime. Still, like, we were in it, and then COVID hit, and then we had, especially here in the US, we had George Floyd getting killed, and so it was black versus white, and now it's vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So now for me, this is the time for men, because never have we had a vacuum of leadership like we have now.
Right.
Never. And I don't care. I don't give a shit who you voted for. I do not trust anybody upstream from me in the government. I don't trust a fucking one of them. I don't trust the media. I trust the guys in my group. I trust the guys who I am in the nation. I trust my team, and I need them. So here's the deal, guys. Like, the call for you to step forward has never been louder or stronger. Yet it's not just stepping forward with your balls. There has never been a time when our hearts have been called forward more too. Because guess what? Everybody is suffering. Maybe like Bezos isn't, but other than him, right? And like 3 other dudes are like, this is the best. A couple others. There's a few everybody else is fucking suffering. Right. So what do they need? They need the grounded presence of a masculine man who also has the capacity to have compassion and kindness for society and for himself. So this is like, I'm not going to say I'm stoked on COVID, but man, did it present the opportunity.
It's a wake-up call.
For what I do. It's like, cool, the wake-up call's here. I have the answer. Like, fuck yeah. God bless whatever forces came and had me write a book 2 years ago on, hey man, do you want to be the guy that the world needs? Here's the guidebook. Here's the courses. Here's the membership. Here I am, where 3 years ago I'd have been like, you want me to stick a needle in your butt or teach you how to deadlift? Those are my specialties.
Right.
So I think it's the call is now, man.
Yeah. And so then the next question I would ask would be, what are the societal or social consequences of or when men do not address these things or acknowledge and address these things that are in front of us now? What are the consequences? What do you see happening?
I see us leading every single negative statistic that doesn't involve breasts or ovaries. Give me another one. Give me suicide. Give me prison rates. Give me violence. Give me shootings. Give me domestic violence. Give me sexual assault. Give me obesity. Give me homelessness. Like, give whatever you want to say. We're winning the fucking race to the bottom,
right. to the end.
To the end in those areas. This is the thing, when hurt people, right? And I know that's a bit of a cliche, and I've said this publicly. Hurt women often hurt themselves. Hurt men, we fucking hurt everybody around us.
Yep.
Until I start to see like masses of women shooting up schools and supermarkets and beating the shit out of their partners, I'm going to continue to believe this.
You're going to stick to that one. Yep, I agree.
And here's the thing that hurts me the most. We kill ourselves. It's terrible. We addict ourselves. We put ourselves, we do not know what to do with this pain. So we shove it down and shove it down and shove it down till it explodes outwards.
Right. It's like putting 5 pounds of shit in it, or 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound box. And
it's gotta come out.
It's the behaviors and the situations we put ourselves in that ultimately are self-destructive. And it goes back to the basics. And you mentioned those in terms of your 4 F's, and taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and, outwardly, talking about all those things. The place that we are now is disturbing, and you can't turn on, a news, the social media or the news without hearing about this stuff. And it directly relates. It's a scary, scary place. And the thing that challenges me the most are we have, adult men out there, and what is the youth seeing? What are the young men of the world, particularly of America, seeing as an example of how to do these things and be a leader and be a man and be proud of that, not scared of it. Mm-hmm. It's I don't know. It's a tough thing to watch and a tough thing to try to contemplate. And I think, again, going back to everything you've said, it's very easy to just bury your head in the sand and go, you know what, I just got to get through my day because I can't control any of that right now.
Yeah. It's hard, man. And I'm 45. So I grew up in a different paradigm and a different time than a lot of men. And yet for me, it was a huge challenge. Yet on the daily, brother, I get women reaching out saying, my 14-year-old son, my 15-year-old son, my 17-year-old son has no clue. He is so lost as to what it means to be a man. Like, I was just shoved the Marlboro Man. Right. And had to like reject that and then swing and go the other way. But I wasn't shown 55 different options, none of which really made sense, all of which switch at the same time, and not a lot of guys for me to model. And I'll tell you, I was at a event that, Connor Beaton, who runs Man Talks, he had a public event 2 or 3 years ago and brought up a couple speakers, and it was like 50 of us in a bar in New York watching putting on an event, right? And guys came up and talked, and it was mostly guys, say 35 and older. And at the end of this thing, this kid, let's call him, raises his hand, 17, 18, and he just breaks down crying and says, you guys need to talk to us. We don't know what to do. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Where are, like, he was so not angry, but like desperate, like, fuck, guys, help us. We're begging for it. And I went home and just cried. I was like, holy shit. Like, what are we doing? What happens when these guys are 10 years older, 20 years older? How are we failing them? And how can we turn this so that at least they have a model, someone who they go, you know what? That guy's doing cool shit in the world. I like that. You know what? He hasn't rejected fast cars, guns, and boobs, right, all of which are really cool. Yeah. And he also seems to have his mental health in check. He's not afraid of therapy. He's not afraid of intimacy. He's not afraid of connection. Here's the kicker. So many guys our age would rather be dead than considered weak.
Right.
And that's like, fuck, man. Like, it's not, I'm in therapy. I'm in therapy ever since my divorce. I think it's great. I think like at birth, It should be like, here's your social security card. Here's your therapist.
Right.
Why? Because this whole humans thing is like repetitive kicks to the balls.
It's pretty much right. Yeah.
Especially now.
If
like
you haven't been kicked,
world's getting kicked in the balls.
Yeah, if you haven't been kicked in the balls lately, just wait 5 minutes. It'll happen, right? You kind of thing. I think, and it's nuts, and no pun intended, but or fully intended. Yeah. But I think that's the reality. We've talked about sort of the reality and kind of how we got here, and your mission is to get men and couples through this time. And I think in shifting the conversation to doing the work, and as scary as it might be, I think there's some things that people may need to be aware of and set them up for. It would be like coaching. It would be like taking on a coaching client for a fitness program or a nutrition program, and kind of laying down some foundation and helping them to understand it's not going to be easy. But one of the questions I have is, maybe you could talk through what can happen, or what can the consequences be when I, a man, begins to take my own personal growth very seriously. And what happens sort of in socially, or what can happen? How could I be viewed? What are the things that might happen to me, or I should expect to have to do in order to really be successful at this?
It's a great question. First, it's going to be hard. I'm just going to be honest. It's just like showing up to the gym for the first time, right? Like the first 6 weeks of any new routine are not fun. You're going to be sore. You're going to be tired. You're going to realize you have muscle in places you never thought. Like you're finally going to peel the Band-Aid off and go, oh shit, there's a lot underneath here that I need to work on. So one, realize that you're in this game for a while, right? Like no one got in shape in 6 weeks and was like, cool, check, done. Never have to go to a gym again. I've solved the fitness problem. So you want to adopt this as a way of life, meaning that it's something that you're working on consistently and at all times, because it's important. Now that's the like negative part of the sale.
Yep.
Here's the positive. Every area of your life improves. And here's the deal, guys. Go look in a mirror. If you don't respect that guy, if you don't like that guy, or if you don't love that guy, you have work to do. And I say this with full-hearted compassion. I feel for you, because I remember looking in the mirror and being like, fuck him. And that is a terrible way to live. Not only for me, but for my partner, if I have kids, for them, for my neighbors, for my coworkers, for everybody. But let's keep it selfish. For me, that's not fun. I don't like waking up hating myself. So it changes everything. One, your day-to-day experience will be better. You get that? Like, period. We could be done with the sale right there. But since we're talking to men, you will be healthier. You will make more money. You will fuck better. You will have you'll have less fights with your partner. You will have more laughter. You will enjoy this human experience more. You will also, and this is something that as a gym owner, you get, like, men need to be challenged. We don't get to
1,000%.
coast. We don't want to coast, right? Honestly, if I could take a pill and be in the best shape of my life for the rest of my life, I wouldn't do it.
You'd be bored.
I like deadlifting.
Yeah.
I like pull-ups. I like being tired. I like having calluses on my hands. I like mourn the day when I can't work out ever again. There'll be a terrible day. Same with this, but it like the trickle down effect, or like if you think of tributaries off of a river, when you change your self-worth, when you you get an integrity, when you understand what healthy boundaries are and how to uphold them, suddenly the amount of drama and shit that you deal with drops exponentially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's because you're aligned, right? And it's actually one of your buddies, who I've really enjoyed listening to, is Rick Alexander.
Love him.
And just to plug, your unplugged version of your podcast, just here for a second. I heard him basically say a quote, and I don't think it was there, it might've been somewhere else, but basically the lesson was, when you start to prioritize your own inner world, right? The things that are going on inside of you, and you begin to make make decisions that are align and honor your sort of internal or intrinsically held value system, that's tough for the world around you sometimes. It means sometimes appearing selfish. It means sometimes appearing maybe even withdrawn at times as you're processing and trying to deal with things. That's been my own personal experience in my relationships. It can be hard.
Yeah.
And because it often means times you start to question maybe your moral fabric at a certain level, or what your bandwidth is, and then you start to go back and forth with, am I weak? Is this not who I am? Who am I as a person? Who am I as a man? But it means sometimes you got to deprioritize values that come from other places, and you're starting to recognize this. It's coming from external things. Maybe it's your relationship. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's society. Maybe it's fucking social media. I don't know, but you're hearing what is right to do and what isn't right to do, and you're having to pick. What do because I can't focus on it all at the same time. So it means a real deep internal understanding of what your personal values are and aligning those with the work that you want to do. And that's, I think, why in the end, what you're saying is everything gets better when you figure that part out. But that isn't going to happen overnight. No,
but just like fitness, like you throw yourself into the process. You change your relationship with uncertainty and the unknown. Mm-hmm. Right? That 3 years of hard working out, if you come in as a newbie, 3 years later, you will be a different human. Right. Not that like, oh, wow, my shoulders grew an inch, but like the fabric of your DNA gets reorganized. How you view challenge gets reorganized. How you view food, how you view comfort and discomfort, it all changes. So when you throw yourself into a personal growth journey with the same allowance for like, I don't know, man, I'm going to come out of this different. That is it's a healthier frame. And you realize, like, I'm a jujitsu guy. There are days where I'm like, I suck at this sport. I know nothing. I do not deserve my belt. I do not deserve to be on the mat. Like, I am terrible. And then 2 days later, like, I am a god. I should be a black belt. I just beat everybody.
Until Wednesday session. And then it all goes back to the beginning again.
Then it's right back. And so if you can relax around that idea, be like, this is all part of the game, but I'm in it for the next 40 years. It's really helpful. But I just want to come back to this idea that, men, your life will be better. Right? If nothing else, think of a week when you fought with your partner. Like, it sucks. It's energetically expensive. You don't sleep. You have stomach aches. You're on edge. Your anxiety's up. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. Now, think about a week when you have a really good week with your partner. Your creativity's there. You have new ideas. Your business is thriving. Like, you get more of those days than you do the other days. You also have a new relationship with the hard days, just like you and I just talked about. Like,
it's all relative, right?
It all becomes relative. So I think it's exciting. Like, I view it, it requires a warrior spirit. It requires courage. It requires a little bit of a sense of adventure. I'm like, oh shit, I'm going to peel the onion back here. Right. What do you know? This whole thing that I was taught as a kid or as a teenager that I could swear was true isn't true. Holy shit, this is going to change everything about my life.
Right.
Just a simple, like, when I quit drinking, everything changed. And I had to be willing to go down that whole journey of friends don't want to hang out with me anymore.
Right.
Wow. I have to find new shit to do on a Saturday night. What this isn't good. This isn't fun in the beginning. This sucks. Now, like, holy shit, I have a whole bunch of amazing, amazing friends. I have amazing, amazing relationships. I haven't been hungover on a Saturday morning in 6 years. My workouts are great. Like, whoa,
right.
You have to be willing to take that leap.
So I think that, if you're a dude out there and you're listening to this and you're going, Trevor, this sounds great. And it's scary. It's scaring the shit out of me. And I really want to try it, but I'm not quite there yet. So I guess the question is, for those men who are thinking about and want to explore these concepts and these feelings and need, let's just say, maybe in the workout context, a warm up or more, maybe more of like a private self-guided experience to perhaps ease anxiety or quell doubt or let's be honest, maybe a little internal skepticism about all of this.
Sure.
What have you found to be a good ways, for people to begin the exploration process? And in that, I think, it's in asking you, what have you created as maybe a stepping stone to, in the path to embracing becoming fucking uncivilized?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm a bit, again, I get it, right? Not everybody wants to dive in publicly. Not everybody wants to dive in with both feet. There are a number of great books you can read other than mine. You can read To Be a Man by Robert Masters. You can read No More Mr. Nice Guy, Robert Glover. You can read The Way of Men by Jack Donovan. Just read one and see how it feels. And then here's your starter kit, guys. Wake up in the morning, take a flat stone or like a rounded stone, a lacrosse ball, something like that. Step on it, like grind your foot into it, both feet, one at a time for a minute each. Go take a shower, and at the end of the shower, make it ice cold for 60 seconds. That's it. See how your day is different when you are grounded because your feet actually feel the floor and you've done something difficult. You've overcome the mind chatter that says, this is cold. This isn't fun. I don't want to do this. And you do it anyway. Just that. Those 2 steps is what I give new guys in the beginning. Like, just do this, right? And see if it changes the rest of your day. And if it changes the rest of your day, imagine if you actually started doing some deeper work, which I get it, man. Like I facilitated the deepest shit. The guys like screaming and crying and punching pillows in a room full of other men holding them down and they have to fight their way forward. The deep trauma work. That's high level shit. If you're not there yet, cool. Grind your feet in, take a cold shower, ask yourself this question: who am I as a man? Specifically, right? Not as a human. I get that, you're a human. But man, we walk around in these bodies, and these bodies have requirements. These bodies have proclivities. These bodies have testosterone, just some powerful shit. God bless it. It makes us different. Check your breath every couple minutes. Be like, am I breathing? Am I breathing into my stomach? Wow, I feel, wow. Now notice how people around you are affected. That's the kicker for guys. I'll get guys to do this for 10 days, just those 2. It's like, hey, how's your partner? Like, it's weird. She said she trusts me the other day. Or like, I can sense her relaxing when I'm walking in the room. Our sex life got better. It was fucking weird, man. Like, I know it's weird, but it works.
Embrace it.
Just be like, cool. There's something, just like on day 1 of jujitsu, right? I was like, this doesn't make sense. On day 2, on day 10, I was like, wait a minute. If I move my hips, something weird happened. And they're like, trust me. Welcome. Like there's a whole pantheon of stuff for you to learn.
Right.
Now you have conscious contact with
it's awareness.
1% of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the awareness that then, from the reps that then turns into the unconscious and the habit and the daily practice, which ultimately, turns into a consistency, right? And a discipline that is part of who you are. And that is the alignment I was referencing earlier to the values and to the things that are important to you. And you'd be, I was shocked to see how much more, how people aligned and how things aligned in my life when I was able to get to that point. Trevor, there's been a lot of things. I think there's some key words that you brought up that really stuck out to me. Key words like permission, ability, skill, capacity, which may be more synonymous than most dudes might think with regard to their fitness life or their business life and things like that. But that word permission really sticks out for me. And, again, one of the other things I think you just alluded to, you kind of said, like, when I quit drinking, this happened. And when I adopted this behavior or this thing, this happened. And that is, the concept of understanding when or what to let go of and when to let go of it. Again, just key takeaways for me going into, walking away from this conversation. The question I have for you is, man, first off, the core of Iron Sights is hosting guests like you that are completely unapologetic about winning in all aspects of life, health, fitness, business, relationships, all of those things. You are the epitome of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just charged up here. what are some of the projects maybe you can let us know that you're working on, how to find out about you,
Sure.
what's firing you up right now, and how can people get in touch with you or take advantage of what you're bringing to the table?
Beautiful. So the thing that's got me fired up, man, COVID, as much as it sucked, I turned I'm going to travel around the world and meet with groups of men into, I'm going to create an online membership, the Uncivilized Nation, where guys can do this work virtually. And we went from 0 to 30, 30 to 100, 100 to 200. We have 264 guys in this group who are doing this work together. So that thing, like, man, that I wake up most mornings like, okay, how do I add value to them? What speakers do I need to bring in? What challenges do they need to do? How are we supporting this month, like the veterans who just watched Afghanistan fall? Right. How do we support those guys? Last month, it was something completely like, how do we make more money? How do we have better sex? It's really, so to answer your question, I'm on Instagram at Traver Boehm, TraverBoehm, but all of my offerings are at manuncivilized.com. Guys, start with the book. I make like $3 a book. I am not retiring on my book. Yes.
Most people don't get that. Yeah,
right? I know. I get it. It's a $30 book. I make $3. So get it though, because that is the thing that consistently I have heard over and over and over and over and over, like, your book was a game changer. I read it cover to cover, and it's not a normal book, guys. It's got pictures. It's not black ink on white paper. You can turn to any chapter and get something out of it. It's like 90 blog posts, essentially. Get that, read it, find me, find Connor Beaton, find Man Talks, find Mankind Project, find Sacred Sons. If you want to go that way, find some group of men and just go, you know what? I'm taking a leap of faith here. I'm just going to see what this is like. This is weird. It's like, I remember my first day of jiu-jitsu being like, I'm just going to see what this is like. Here we are 15 years later. My ears are fucked up, but I can't imagine my life without it. So those are the places that I'm hanging out. I have a podcast, the Uncivilized podcast, which I'm trying to bring in fascinating people to. Mostly, like, I'm on social media. I'm trying to, like, our challenge this month is to delete it Wednesdays and Sundays. So don't message me on a Wednesday or a Sunday.
Good for you.
But other than that, like, get yourself a book, find out who you are, be able to answer this question. What are you building, guys? Right? Like, I am building a movement of 1 million men who express their masculinity through both the primal and the divine. And when I ask men, what are you building? That question changes everything. And then realize this, you don't build it alone. And the permission slip I'm sliding across the table is you have to build with other men.
Man, you've made yourself accessible. You made the things that you talked about today accessible. And if people take advantage of that and they dive into it and they commit to it, I think what they find is they become more accessible to themselves, and all the things in life become more accessible to them. That's my takeaway. Traver, amazing talk today.
Thank you, sir.
I so appreciate you. I love you, brother. Thanks so much for being on today. And looking forward to maybe getting into one of these talks here real soon.
Cheers, brother. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, pal. You too.
Yep.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Iron Sights. If you enjoyed our conversation, you can support our mission by hitting the subscribe button, leaving a review, and sharing the podcast with a friend. I'll see you on the next episode.